because it's so different from everything else, I love this instrument. Now, the idea of a machine playing a stringed instrument, nobody wanted to touch that idea with a 10-foot pole. Nobody thought it was ever going to be possible. Ironically, it wasn't a music company that figured out how to do it. It was the Mills Novelty Company of Chicago, Illinois. They were primarily a company that made casino games. But it's because of that that they thought so far outside the box to handle all the issues and problems that came up. For instance, first thing we deal with a stringed instrument, keeping it in tune. Stringed instruments don't like to stay in tune. No matter what kind of music you enjoy, you go see live music, whether they have a harp, a guitar, a bass, a violin, any stringed instrument, you're going to see that instrument get retuned multiple times just during that performance, much less over a long period of time. What the Mills Novelty Company figured out is if they elongated the strings and put counterweights at the end, it would slow down the detuning process. It would give the Mills Novelty guy about a month to get from place to place to retune the instruments. It's pretty smart. However, if the dude got sick, fall behind, nobody was putting money into it because once they got out of tune, they sounded pretty awful. Now, the second problem you're going to come up with is, well, how do you play a violin with a bow? And there's no one in there to work a bow, nor is there room for a bow in there. So what they came up with were the ideas for these 4 rosin wheels. There is a rosin wheel for each individual string. And after every 3 songs, those wheels are lifted back up and re-rosined on this strip. It's pretty smart. Next, you need fingers in there to clamp down to capture notes. They took the exact opposite approach. They created these little metal V's that in turn pulled the string taut, and they capture the note that way. It's pretty smart. And finally, the thing that most people associate with the violin is when someone's playing it is the shake or the vibrato. In order to create a false vibrato, they create this mechanism right here on the end that keeps the violin in a constant state of twitch and creates its own false shake. Now, this is supposed to be a duet between the violin and the piano, but with as much attention and love given to the violin, there wasn't a whole lot of room left for the poor piano. So it's literally half a piano. It's a 44-note piano, just enough to accompany the violin. Now down below, I still have a paper roll, I still have a tracker bar, all of that has remained the same, but my tracker bar is extremely different because I'm not running pneumatics, air doesn't pass through. Instead, the way this one works is when the holes in the paper line up with the tracker bar, it in turn completes a circuit, which then sends the information, it tells which instrument to play which note. So it works in a very, very different way. Now remember what I told you earlier, we didn't have electricity in this area until the mid-1930s. This is 1908. Electricity was still in its infancy. For someone to understand it well enough to create something like this, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Now this particular one was built in 1925 for a restaurant in Madison, Wisconsin, but it was actually shown off for the very first time in 1908 at the World's Fair. It was immediately designated by the US government as one of the 8 greatest inventions of the decade. Some other things on that list: the lie detector test, the disposable razor blade, and cellophane. It's a good decade. So, when I start this instrument, it takes about 30 seconds for the song to kick in. So do not let it startle you when it starts to play. You'll get a little bit of a warning. That piano in back will lurch itself forward real quick to reset. Feel free to come up, have a look inside. Please don't stick your fingers in there. There's a lot going on.